and welcome to another edition of In Touch. I'm your host, JD Jean-Pierre Emmanuel. I hope you had a safe and enjoyable weekend, and if you're a football fan like I am, and if you support a great team like I do, I know surely you had a fun and exciting weekend. Just with these few words, I think you have a very good idea what our discussion will be tonight. In fact, earlier today, I indicated that our Minister for Youth Development and Sports will be joining me tonight. And so you will excuse me from smiling a little bit more than I usually do. This is a special interview for me in many ways. I will be speaking tonight with the youngest candidate in the 2011 general elections, the youngest member of the Cabinet of Ministers, and as we have monitored his progress over the last 2.5 years, many persons have come to the conclusion that he has represented the young people of St. Lucia well. A former teacher by profession, Minister for Youth Development and Sports, I will waste no time and introduce Honorable Shawn Edward. Thank you for joining me tonight, and welcome to In Touch.
Thank you very much, JD, for having me. I need to thank you for your very kind words of introduction, and let me take the opportunity to say good evening to persons who are watching this program, and of course I must say a special good evening to my constituents in Denver North.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Denver North. I will tell you, just as many persons were excited about your candidacy, many persons are excited and energized about your portfolio, youth development and sports. And it seemed to be a lot of it seemed to be because of the minister, the energy of the minister, what he presents, the confidence that you project as you handle your ministry. First-time parliamentarian, first-time minister. What has the journey been like for you so far?
Well, for me, it's been a learning experience. When I went into the campaign, I really did not know what to expect. This was new territory for me. I went in there. I was able to pull it off for the Labour Party in Denver North. And subsequent to that, I got a call from the Prime Minister that I will be included in the cabinet. It's always a pleasure to be asked to serve in a ministerial capacity in government. But it's even more exciting when you are asked to contribute in an area of national development that you like, that you're passionate about. And sports has been my passion from the time I was a little boy up till this day. I like what I do. I enjoy doing the things that I do. And I'm hoping that the Prime Minister will continue to have confidence in my ability to make my contribution in that area.
I will tell you straight off, the buzz for the last weekend, the last 2 weekends or so, has been the Black Hat football tournament. Your team is out, one of the first pegs to fall in this year's competition. But you have been monitoring the tournament. I have noted that you have attended all or most of the matches, and the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports has played a very critical role in ensuring that this tournament came off the ground this year. What level of support is your ministry given to Black Hat this year?
Judy, I think first off, we need to take our hats off to the organizers of Black Hat, Mr. David Shakes Christopher, and the team of individuals who have been working with him diligently to ensure that we have a well-run competition. No other sporting activity in St. Lucia generates more passion, more hype than Black Hat. So every year when Shakes comes knocking at the ministry for support, we usually sit down with him and we assess what we have in-house, what we're able to do, how we're able to work with Black Hat to ensure that we satisfy the football public. This year the ministry has come out in a very big way to support Shakes and his team, and I must say that the support that we're giving this year has surpassed what we contributed last year and year before. What I really like about Black Hat is the manner in which it brings communities together, irrespective of people's religious persuasions, political affiliation, age, what have you. People normally come together to rally behind their district representative teams. Unfortunately for us in the Mabwea Valley, we had to make an early exit this year, but we've been there before. We've won the championship. We know what it's like. So I understand the passion and the euphoria that we see being generated in some communities. And it's not just amongst the people on the ground. I can tell you that even in the cabinet,
yes.
There's quite a bit of rivalry. I probably need to tell you that the Prime Minister is the main antagonist where that is concerned.
I'm not surprised.
And earlier today in cabinet, over lunch, he was deliberately questioning people with respect to what they believe will happen in the coming matches. But it's really nice to see that somebody in the private sector can come to the fore and provide that level of support for the development of a sporting discipline. And in this case, it happens to be football. We will always be supportive of Black Hat and any other sporting initiative that we believe can bring about benefits for communities and for the athletes themselves.
We have seen the excitement in football. In fact, this is the 12th year for Black Hat, so it is almost as if it has become part of our football culture. As it relates to the other sports, I note that we have had some domestic competitions as well in the area of cricket. There have been some question marks as it relates to netball and, you know, the performance of our team because of how much the teams get exposed and how they get to play. But what is your overall assessment, your overall view of sports in St. Lucia?
I think there's a buzz at the moment, JD. There's quite a bit happening at the community level. There's quite a bit happening with national competitions. And even with the intercommercial house, you have quite a few sporting disciplines being promoted. And it augurs well for the creation of that sporting culture that we've lacked for such a long time in St. Lucia. But I believe some of the associations really need to take a page from Black Hat in that I think there's a need for a lot more marketing to go into these competitions. Too many associations just rely on publishing fixtures and just announcing that we will be having 4 matches on the weekend. These 2 teams will be playing in the south, and another 2 teams will be playing in the north, and believe that they've done what is required. And it is with that in mind that the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports has seen it necessary to call in all national federations at least once a quarter to sit down with them, to peruse the plans that they have and see how we can lend support. You really cannot rely on the traditional methods to get the communities hyped up. And as I said, Black Hat has done that tremendously well. And I'm hoping that most of the associations in St. Lucia will begin to embrace marketing in a much bigger way than they're doing at the moment. And I believe once they begin to see the benefits that can be derived from having a solid marketing component to their program, the results will be there for all of St. Lucia to see.
As soon as you became Minister for Youth Development and Sports, you started a very ambitious program to rehabilitate our playing facilities in St. Lucia. In fact, one of your first comments was that you understand why sports in St. Lucia has been on the decline because of the state of our facilities. I've heard you lament in public interviews, for example, that the conditions under which some of these players, even national athletes, were asked to go out to practice to produce would have been the worst conditions that you have seen in all of your years. What exactly did you inherit as it relates to the condition of our playing fields, and what have you done to rectify some of the problems that you encounter?
Well, Julia, first and foremost, let me say that I know I am a politician. I'm not here to play politics tonight. And everything I say here tonight can be substantiated with photographs. When I was assigned to the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, one of the first things I attempted to do was to basically assess the conditions of our playing facilities across the length and breadth of this country. With my camera in hand, I would have said that before. I visited every single constituency in St. Lucia. I photographed what I saw. I took the photographs to the cabinet room, and members were virtually shocked to see what obtained. There were several playing fields that were abandoned. Nothing was happening, nothing could have happened. And in some cases, the grass was as high, or shrub, should I say, 4 feet. Absolutely nothing. Case in point, Monrepo, one of the most thriving sporting communities in St. Lucia. One of the biggest playing fields in St. Lucia, the Wen playing field. The Wen playing field was abandoned for months. And in a matter of 6 months, we were able to restore that facility. And it's not just a matter of restoring the facility and having a maintenance crew to keep it in a pristine condition. But shortly thereafter, we noticed that Monrepo was able to have a cricket league and a football league again, and people were moving in the direction of that facility by the hundreds, if not thousands. And this is what you really want to see. A lot of persons focus on the performance of national teams, but in order for you to have vibrant and strong national teams, you must have solid programs at the community level. You must have programs that will create the interest, not just amongst players, but parents and all of the community, because the national team is really nothing without the support of the population. And I was quite pleased when roughly 1 year ago, a year and a half ago, when for the first time in a long time, we had a massive crowd at Bosejo, not supporting Black Hat or inter-district football, but Team St. Lucia. You go to Deriso, you get hundreds of persons turning out for football. The same is true for the Mabuya Valley, Beaufort North, Ancillary, the Roseau Valley, Miku. Yet we could not get 200 persons at the Mendo Philip Park or Bosejo to support the national team. There was a disconnect. And what competitions like Black Hat and is doing, and some of the domestic competitions we have in communities, that it's creating the awareness, it is creating the interest. So I'm not surprised that when national teams are playing these days, people see a need to be there to support, because they would have seen some of the players at the domestic level and they want to follow and monitor their progress.
And
so
I
they
think
follow
of
them
late,
to the
the
national
results
stadium.
have been much better of late.
Yes.
I mean, when you have your national football team, for example, going on to win competitions and to place highly in competitions, I think it really it encourages the public to go out and to give their support. The thing about, and you know about St. Lucia, the Caribbean on the whole, because we see it with West Indies cricket, you go out there and you play, you may have won 5 matches prior, but if you go on the field today and you're not victorious, by the next match you would realize that the support dwindles. So if
Absolutely.
consistently over a period of time we would have our national teams you know, going overseas to participate in competitions and not even placing, then after a while people begin to lose faith. But we have seen of late some improvement.
Yes, we've seen some improvement. I've always said to national athletes that their role is a very important one. And I've always likened what they do when they're selected on national teams to what our ambassadors and high commissioners do out there. It is a very, very important role that must always be underscored at every opportunity. And people need to understand that when you're on a national team and you board that aircraft, it is not about you. You're representing the interests of 170,000 persons, and it is something that you must take seriously. So we've seen the improvement in football. I think the restoration of playing fields would have contributed in part to this. But very importantly, JDO, in collaboration with NICE, the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, was able to roll out yet another program, and that is the football coaching program,
Yes.
where in excess of 20 coaches were recruited by the Football Association. They were deployed to the various parts of the community, and some of these players who would have been in their care today are on the national under-17 team, which has been doing very well in the regional competition. And I don't know that any administration has done more for football than what you've seen happening today. The only investment of note, so to speak, in football would have been when Stuart Charles Fevrier was recruited as a coach in the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development several years ago, and there was a lull. But I'm happy to say that the relationship between the Football Association and the government is a thriving one, and we're hoping that our national teams, both at the age group level and senior, would continue to make us proud.
You have continued in a more strategic way the electrification program, and so many of our playing fields across the island, in some communities where we never even dreamt that there would ever be lights on these playing fields, many of them have been lit, and there are some where the infrastructure is in place and we are simply awaiting the completion of the facility so that we can turn on the lights. Where are we right now, and are there any communities that have not yet benefited from that program that are earmarked for lights this year?
Gideon, I also need to commend the previous administration for having the foresight to install lighting facilities at some of the playing fields. Sufre is one case in point where the previous administration would have installed lights. But I believe they could have been a lot more strategic in terms of where the lights were placed. When I assumed the Office of Minister responsible for youth development and sports roughly 2.5 years ago, at least 80 to 90% of the playing fields in this country that were lit were north of the Castries waterfront. And I did say at my first address at the Sports Awards that this is something that we should correct. I think I've said before that St. Lucia is a rich repository of sporting talent, and the star athletes come from all the various parts, not just the north of the island. So that, excuse me, when the Prime Minister made $2.5 million available in the budget for the lighting of recreational facilities. I was pretty clear in my mind which playing fields ought to have been lit. Vieux is a town. The Philippe Marcelin is perhaps one of the better venues we had in the prior years. So obviously that would have been one of the playing fields that I would have earmarked for lights. The Mindo Philippe Park, some argued, was already lit, and why was there a need to install lights at Marsha? But what you must understand is that the Mindo Philippe Park is a national facility that is being used not just by sports people in this country, but Independence Committee, Carnival, just name it. The Mindo Philippe Park is the venue that they use. And Marsha is a heavily populated area, and I felt that they too needed lights. So the decision was taken to install lights at the Philippe Marcelin grounds in Vieux Fort, that's in the south. Then the Marsha grounds in the Castries Basin. And driving from Castries down the west coast, there was absolutely no lit facilities. You have the Roseau playing field, you have the Marigot playing field, well Roseau, by that I meant Jackmel playing field, the Marigot playing field, ancillary canneries, no lights. So we had to find one of the facilities in that belt that we had to earmark for lights, and the decision was taken that the village of Ancillary was deserving of lights, and so we installed a set of lights in Ancillary. And of course, with one set left, I'm the sports minister. I know the needs of the Mabouya Valley. I know what we've contributed to the sporting landscape of this country. And I felt the final set of lights should have been installed at the Larissus playing field.
So you were last of the lot?
Well, not necessarily in order of preference, but as far as the installation works were concerned, we were pretty much last on the list. To date, we've connected the lights at Marsha. We've tested the lights, very efficient system. We've gotten the connection certificates from the Ministry of Infrastructure. We're just awaiting actual connection in Vieux Fort, Ancillary, and at Larissus. In the ensuing financial year, we will be requesting additional lights. We also know that we cannot possibly light every facility in this country.
How many playing fields do we have in St. Lucia?
We have 60-something playing fields in St. Lucia. Starting with the Beauséjour cricket facility, the George Odlum Stadium, and we have some very small playgrounds that we label playing fields. It will not be possible to light every single one. We have to be very strategic. The lights are not free. They have to be managed properly. We have to ensure that we put in place management committees so that persons will not abuse these lights, because it has happened in the past where persons use the lights in such an indiscriminate way that the bills get out of control, and at the end of the day they find themselves at the ministry, and persons begin to agitate, expecting the ministry to find the monies to pay the bills. It's not going to be a free-for-all. We're going to put tight management systems in place to ensure that these lights are used in a manner that is productive and that is going to benefit communities. I will not mention the community, but sometime last week I was driving from the south, and I noticed that lights were on a particular playing field, and there were just about 3 guys sweating, taking penalty kicks, and this is not what you really want to encourage. So we're going to put the lights where necessary, but at the same time we must ensure that we have the systems in place to ensure that they're not abused.
Just before we go to a commercial break, out of curiosity I must ask, we speak about playing facilities, but we have been focusing on the playing fields. Are there any courts? Because I know volleyball, basketball, and the other sports that have been lit or are earmarked to be lit? Well,
with the courts, and in the face of a budget cut, it was very, very difficult to actually install lights on multipurpose courts. What we've done is that we've had to do some remedial works with respect to the lighting systems on some of the courts. Barbono, for sure, we've done some work in the gardens. The court at Patience in Monrepo has been of concern to us, but again, because of resource constraints, we've not been able to do what we really want to do. What I have attempted to do as minister is to engage some of my parliamentary colleagues, hoping that they can use some of their CDP allocation to do some of what the ministry is not able to do because of resource constraints. Some have responded favorably, others believe that they have more pressing needs. but I will continue to agitate for better sporting facilities at the community level, because I believe if we continue to invest in our young persons, we will see the results down the road, and St. Lucia will be a much better place for it.
Great. We're due for our first commercial break. When we come back, we will speak to the youth development aspect of the minister's portfolio. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to In Touch. My guest tonight is Honorable Shawn Edward, Parliamentary Representative for Dennery North and Minister for Youth Development and Sports. Minister, we have been speaking about sports for a little while now, for the first part of the program. And I know when we started on that note, many persons would have said, I'm not surprised that they're speaking about sports. Everything is sports. In that ministry, or wherever sports is aligned, it seemed to be at the forefront and everything else is operating in the shadows. Some persons are of the view that more should be done with youth development, or not enough emphasis is being placed on youth development, or if at all we have strides being made in that area, that it is not as magnified and promoted as we do with sports. Can you bring us up to date with that aspect of your portfolio? Because I know the Prime Minister made a very deliberate effort to give it the prominence by aligning it to a separate ministry, so that we can have special attention being paid to the development of our youth.
Okay, let me say, JD, that that perception is one that has been out there for a while, that a lot more is happening in sports than youth development, and that might be true. The disparity in budget would reflect that you get more resources for sports than you would for youth development, but that is not to say that the government isn't investing monies in youth development. Quite a few of the youth development initiatives of the government are spread across ministries. One of the programs that is very dear to me is the Youth in Agriculture program. But that does not reside in the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports. But I know that the folks at the Ministry of Agriculture are doing a tremendous job in trying to sensitize young persons and to get them to gravitate towards agriculture and to see agriculture for what it is with respect to the contribution it can make to the economic development of our country. In-house at the Ministry of Youth Development, we have been able to work with the British government to secure a program known as the BUILD, the Beckwith International Leadership Development, where in excess of 20 young persons will be trained. The program is entirely funded by UK Sport, and we're hoping that in a 5-year period, at least 20,000 young persons would have been trained, where they would have been given the requisite skills to go out there and make themselves more employable. Just last week, we launched a program in collaboration with the CARICOM Secretariat known as CIBO, the Creativity for Employment and Business Opportunity. I would have made the point before that the government cannot, through the public sector, absorb every single school leaver by way of providing employment for them. Sure. The situation with respect to youth unemployment isn't something new. It is chronic. It is a situation that is reflected across the Caribbean. But you cannot take solace and comfort in the fact that the problem is just as acute in St. Vincent or in Trinidad as it is in St. Lucia. You must, as a government, find creative ways to address your own domestic problems. So in partnership with the CARICOM Secretariat, we launched this CIBO initiative. Again, it is an initiative that is geared towards sensitizing young persons with a view to getting them to start up their own small businesses. Everybody cannot rely on government for employment. It's not going to work. Quite apart from that, the government has also launched the cruise ship employment program. Yes. Our ministry has been working very closely with the Office of the Prime Minister to get the word out there. We've been able to seek employment opportunities for a number of our national athletes. I mean, the list goes on and on in terms of what we can do. The NYC will tell you that never before have they gotten more support from the government, and support not just in terms of dollars and cents, but they have been invited on many occasions to be part and parcel of the discussion that would inform policy formulation in a number of areas. They've met with senior staff of the Ministry of Youth Development, and I know on more than one occasion the NYC has had meetings with the Prime Minister. Of
Yes.
course, this is government trying to incorporate the views of young persons in the decision-making process of our country. So there's a lot happening with youth development, but as I said, just by its nature, it is not as glamorous as sports, and so persons believe that there isn't much that is happening where that is concerned.
Minister, Commonwealth 2017. There is this debate that is ongoing right now, and in fact that debate seemed to be among sporting individuals who are involved in sports, so various clubs, organizations, and so on. And many citizens are concerned about St. Lucia's state of preparedness, St. Lucia's ability to host the Commonwealth Games. Many factors. St. Jude continues to operate from the stadium in Vieux-Fort. And we are looking at capacity in terms of the facilities, because as well I know that we would require a pool of international standards so that we can host the games. Where are we in terms of preparation for Commonwealth 2017, and are you confident that we, despite the odds, have the capacity and the ability to host the games?
I honestly believe that we do have the capacity to host the games. I was at Cabinet today, and there was no announcement in Cabinet that we're not hosting the games, contrary to what some persons might be thinking. But let me say that I share some of the sentiments that have been expressed in the public with respect to the pace at which things are happening. But there's more to hosting the Commonwealth Games than having the George Odlum's Stadium in a state of readiness. We all know the circumstances that led to the stadium being occupied by a hospital. I mean, I wish the hospital was already out of the stadium. And I was saying to my colleague minister responsible for health that if they were to move tomorrow, I'll be the first person down there to help them carry stuff from the stadium to their new premises at St. Jude's.
So bad.
But we understand the situation.
Yes.
It's not something that can be rushed. I know that the government is trying its best to get the hospital out of the stadium. And I can assure you that we have plans in place at the Ministry of Youth Development that as soon as the hospital vacates the stadium, you will begin to see activities at the George Odlum Stadium with a view to getting the facility ready for the Commonwealth Youth Games. There's more than just construction work that has to take place down there. I was told that sanitizing the facility would take a while because of biomedical waste issues that might have to be addressed and things of that sort. So we have a plan in place. We have started making the assessment with respect to what ought to be tackled first. The stadium is in a chronic state of disrepair. We cannot salvage the roof. I don't think any one of the 5,000 seats that we have down there can be salvaged. The salinity of the air in Vieux-Fort is something that can be very problematic for some of the facilities that you have down there. So we are fully cognizant of that. As I said, we have a plan in place. But there's more to the Commonwealth Games than just having a facility. We have a local organizing committee that has been constituted. And in addition to that, just recently, a cabinet subcommittee was put in place, all part and parcel of St. Lucia, trying to get itself ready to host a successful Commonwealth Youth Games in 2017. Swimming is one of the compulsory sports.
Yes.
And we need an aquatic facility. The government has pledged an amount in this year's budget to begin the process of constructing a 50-meter pool. There is a cabinet conclusion that speaks to that, and land at Beausejour, adjacent to the cricket stadium, has been earmarked for the construction of that facility. The Ministry of Youth Development and Sports is in conversation with a particular company that has been identified to undertake the construction of the pool. As I said, things are not moving at the pace that most St. Lucians want to see. But I remain very optimistic that come 2017, we will be in a position to deliver Commonwealth Youth Games that will be the envy of many other nations in the Commonwealth.
What is the plan as it relates to financing? I hear you speak of the George Odlum Stadium, and I'm getting the feeling that we would need a completely new facility. and that I know would come at a hefty price. The Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, I know that a lot of the burden would lie on the Ministry of Finance to make the line of financing available. But is there anything your ministry is doing to assess the amount of money that would be needed and to begin to prepare to ensure that we are ready, or at least we have the ability to raise part of the required sum?
Yes, well, as we speak, the National Lotteries Authority, for which I have ministerial responsibility, has been given a mandate to establish a sinking fund towards the Commonwealth Youth Games. And let me say that the construction of the pool and the refurbishment of the stadium and the improvement to sporting infrastructure overall is not just for the Commonwealth Youth Games. These are facilities that will be used by St. Lucians, but obviously if you're going to host games of the magnitude of the Commonwealth Youth Games, your facilities have to be up to a particular standard. So it's not a case where the facilities are being refurbished or are being constructed just for the Commonwealth Youth Games. We need a 50-meter pool in St. Lucia. I think our swimmers have done very well in the circumstances. They do not get to train in a 50-meter facility. They use the Rodney Heights Aquatic Center. Yes. And from there, they're able to go to Trinidad and go to Carifta and record very impressive times. They're able to capture medals, and we're very proud of them. So if, as part of our development mandate, the need has a reason where St. Lucia needs a 50-meter pool, of course we're willing to go down that road. But having said that, you cannot be oblivious to the fact that these are difficult economic times. And any discussion with respect to the Commonwealth Youth Games, or any games for that matter, would have to factor in the economic situation that we're in as a country. So, as I said, very recently, a cabinet subcommittee was put in place, and quite apart from the mandate of the local organizing committee that will look after accommodation and the more technical aspect, we are looking at it from a policy position. We're looking at it from a position where we can provide oversight. But I can tell you that up to this afternoon when I left cabinet, St. Lucia was pretty much committed to hosting the games, and we have not seen any situation on the horizon that would cause us to make any declaration or statement in the coming days with respect to St. Lucia not being able to host the Commonwealth Games.
Are there legal implications if we are to determine that we are unable to host the games as agreed upon in, I believe it was about 2008 thereabouts, I'm not sure. Yeah. Are there any legal implications?
I don't know that there are legal implications, but with a sporting event of the magnitude of the Commonwealth Games, you must understand that there are thousands of athletes preparing. There are scores of countries that are investing resources into the preparation of athletes. And of course, the Commonwealth Games Federation itself is working with us because they have somebody on the organizing committee. Okay. And that person's role is really, the person serves as a conduit, so to speak, between St. Lucia and the Commonwealth Games Federation. And as I said, we're working diligently to ensure that we get ourselves to where we want to be, but we're not yet at the stage where we can say that the Commonwealth Youth Games are in jeopardy.
Please stay in touch. When we come back, we'll be discussing matters related to Honorable Shawn Edwards' constituency, and then we'll be taking your calls. We'll be right back after the commercial break. Thank you for staying in touch. My guest tonight is Honorable Shawn Edwards, Parliamentary Representative for Dennery North and Minister for Youth Development and Sports. We'll focus a lot tonight on the ministry. I want to go down into the constituency at this point. Honorable Shawn Edwards, I must really commend you for being one of the ministers of government who is in touch. You use social media, and so it does not matter if we are not part of your local constituency. For me, I'm part of your constituency because I'm youth. But even for those of us who are not part or not from Dennery North, to walk the streets and see the fruits of your representation, we use social media, and so we can see some of the wonderful work that you have done in Dennery North, and also the government through the Ministry of Infrastructure and other partner agencies. Dennery North, to my estimation, has been transformed in 2.5 years. And I know that we'll take some time to focus on some of the challenges, because it is impossible to be on a program and not speak about the water situation. So I'm already preempting, I know it is coming.
It's coming.
But I want to focus on some of the infrastructural works that I've seen happening in Dennery North. And I start with the Dubonnet Bridge. Each time I think of Dennery North, I think about this bridge, and I remember too the testimonial of one of the residents from that community. Tell us a little bit about your encounter in that particular area prior to the elections and coming into that community after one of your campaign promises materialized.
Yes, Julia, I need to say that this is one of the projects that has been celebrated not just by myself, but by the residents. I remember during the campaign, it was a very difficult exercise to negotiate a little ravine. And in order to traverse that ravine, you had to walk on 2 coconut pieces of wood. And of course, there was a coconut stem that formed the part of the crossing. And that was what elderly folk, school children, and anybody who had interest in the community had to use to get to the top or the other side of that ravine. When I went there, of course, young fellow looking for votes, you see a need for projects. You have not consulted your political leader, but you would boldly tell people that if you get elected, this is what you're going to do for them. And I did say to the people of Dubonnet that within the first 100 days, if I'm elected to office as parliamentary representative for Dennery North, I couldn't care less whether my party would have been in government or not. Once I'd gotten myself elected, I would have delivered a bridge and a road to them. Lo and behold, we ended up winning the elections. I remember that the Minister for Infrastructure came to the cabinet room and he was identifying a list of projects that needed to have happened, bridges in particular. And there were a number of bridges that he mentioned. And before he was able to complete his list, I interrupted his presentation to tell him that there was an omission and that there's a particular pocket in the Mabwea Valley known as Dubonnet where they badly need a bridge and a road. He told me he would look into it, and a few weeks thereafter he came in and he told me that the Prime Minister has given him enough resources to be able to undertake that project for me. So I felt vindicated in the end that today the people of Dubonnet do not have to live or relive those days when they were always threatened by the possibility of the ravine overflowing its banks, keeping people confined to their homes, or those who were on the other side of the ravine who had gone to school or church, they were stranded and weren't able to get to their homes. But today we have a brand new bridge, a brand new concrete road, and when you listen to the stories told by the people, it really warms your heart. And I'm saying, in spite of all the negativity that people ascribe to politicians and politics, I have seen firsthand that if you care about people and you're able to make things happen for you, for them, the love and admiration that they have for you is something that will remain for a long time. Today, they tell me that the garbage truck is able to come up the hill, and they can, for the first time in a long time, deposit their garbage into a garbage truck. When the van passes on the morning selling bread, no longer must they traverse the ravine to get on the other side of the community. The van comes right into the little area and they're able to buy the bread. And very interestingly, the 5-year-olds tell me that on Sundays, the ice cream van would come right into the backyard and they're able to buy the ice cream right here. So these are the things that keep you going. It can be a very lonely experience at times, especially when the resources are not flowing and people have high expectations. But you are constantly reminded that there are persons who mean well, there are persons who would always show gratitude. And in Dennery North, sometimes I empathize with the people when it appears as if they're a bit impatient, because for a very long time we were relegated to mere bystanders in the national development process. Monies were flowing and projects were happening right there in Dennery South, but you weren't seeing anything in Dennery North. You went down to to say a place like Deriso or you went to Babono, and things were happening grossly. But what was there to show for Denrinoff? And the point that I continue to make to my people is that, look, in the heyday of the banana industry, it was our banana revenue that built Rodney Bay and the Castries waterfront and a number of infrastructure projects that are flagship projects in St. Lucia today, and projects that contribute to the economic mainstay of the country, that is tourism today. It was our banana revenue that contributed to that. And if the banana industry is not what it used to be and our people have been displaced, I think it's only fair that I go into cabinet and go into parliament and agitate on their behalf. So everything that is available, I always want to get a piece of it for my people. I think they deserve it. We've been able to accomplish quite a bit, but I don't think we are where we want to be because the needs are many. But I also understand that I'm part of a cabinet and sometimes you have to share. And in as much as you want to share, but when you live in the constituency and you see the problems on a daily basis, it is really hard to not go out there and try and get as much as you can for your people.
Yes.
And so in the face of the economic challenges that we've had, I think a lot has been accomplished in Denrinoff. And what I am most grateful and thankful about is the fact that this is only we're just about halfway through the 5-year period, and we've been able to get so much. But there's a lot more that needs to be done. And I'm confident that the Prime Minister will continue to be sensitive to, as he has been throughout, to the needs of the constituents of Denrinoff. And I need to say that you do not just go into government and just get things. I need to publicly thank the Prime Minister for the confidence that he has shown in my ability as a parliamentary rep. I need to thank him for continuing to put resources in my hands, so to speak, because I think I have demonstrated to a certain degree that I can use government resources very effectively and make projects impactful on the lives of people. So we've had a lot done. We've gotten quite a few concrete roads. There's one in Grand Ravine that we were able to do on the CDP in Olio, from the main intersection at Olio down through a little community known as New Jack. That road had been in a deplorable state for God knows how long. Thankfully, on the CDP, that has been resurfaced and there's a brand new concrete road. The Denivia School Road, you will see that on Facebook. I mean, yes. The pools of water that you had on that road would have made it virtually impossible for pedestrians to traverse. But today they have one of the best concrete strips in the country. The Austin Hill Road in Denier Riviere had been on the work program of every single, well, it had been on the work program of the Ministry of Communications, Works and Transport and Infrastructure for every single year for the past 10 years. But for some reason, it could not have been done. I can tell you that if you were to go to Austin Hill now, the road has not been completed in its entirety, but the section of the road that was most troublesome has been fixed. And trust me, it will have to take some natural disaster of some magnitude to cause damage to that section of the road. So a lot has happened in Denrinoff in the space of 2.5 years. As I said, there's a lot more that needs to be done. This is not a time for us to relax. I will continue to press ahead, and when I go out there and I agitate for my people, it's not for me. I don't look for any benefits for myself, but I understand that in a rural setting, people can have particular perceptions of people and community. But one thing I always say to my colleagues is that we just as important as any other part of St. Lucia. And as long as the government resources are made available to parliamentarians, rest assured we will not be bystanders anymore. We will go out there, we will get as much as we think we deserve. And it's all part and parcel of efforts to raise the stakes and to improve our lot in the national scheme of things. In
fact, Denver North is a very strategic constituency, and you have the Alba Bridge currently under construction, and while this falls within your constituency, it is important because it is the link between the north and the south of St. Lucia. I don't know about you, but for us from the south, Anything below the Bad Lily is south. So once you exit there, you begin to count there as the southern part of the island. So that is the link. And it has been a problem for quite some time now. We also have the Tomaso Bridge. And I'm sure that even now, during this season, a lot of your constituents would be a little bit on edge and will be asking what exactly is happening with the silting and so on. Are you involved in that part of the programming of your constituency as it relates to ensuring that, you know, we have the rivers are desilted and it is safe, that your farmers are taken care of?
Yes, the silting budget in the Ministry of Infrastructure this year was not much. But I need to tell you that some of the waterways in my constituency have gotten attention where that is concerned. We obviously cannot do all the major waterways, all the rivers, but the Ministry of Infrastructure has attempted, and I know for a fact that there are some emergency measures that they have been able to devise in the event of a flood or what have you, to ensure that at least people are not affected as badly as they would have in normal circumstances. With respect to the bridge, JD, I've seen things happen there first, and I can speak with a certain degree of authority where that is concerned. I have seen tourists being stranded because they cannot cross on days when we had flooding. I have seen the hearse having to take bodies back to the funeral home. Just name it and I've seen it. And when you happen to be a minister of government and you reach on a scene, you instantly become a verbal punching bag, and people would be frustrated as yes, they would have been, and understandably so. They begin to make you the target. You just have to take it and try to reassure people that this is only for a time and that better is on the way. So I'm quite relieved to see that the bridge is being reconstructed. The pace at which the contractor is working is very pleasing. I do not want to be a spokesperson for the Ministry of Infrastructure where that is concerned.
Before they call you an engineer.
But I'm not an engineer. As my senior colleague would say, I will not profess to be an engineer. But just with the eyes of a parliamentary representative for a project that is happening within the confines of my constituency, I am pleased with what I see at the moment.
We will open up the phone lines 452-7347. This is the number to dial. We've had our say discuss a number of issues as it relates to youth development and sports. Denver North as well. If you have any contribution to make, now is the time to call. We have our first call on the line. Good night and thank you for staying in touch.
Good night.
Hello, good night.
Good night, my brother.
Good evening.
Oh, man, God bless you. That is the only time. The reason why I tell you God bless you, because you are the
Caller,
only...
can you speak up a little bit? I'm having some difficulty hearing you.
That is the only minister that ever come in the valley that we see a light.
Wow.
And I will tell you, it is not you that leave your job and come to the Labour Party to be put a light for us in the valley. God send you. And I telling you, brother, you hold your tight, keep your belt tight, and be strong as you started. But to tell you the truth, I would not give you too much credit, but I appreciate what you do right now, but I will expect it more from you. And it is one thing I would like to say to the public of St. Lucia. For all these ministers that ever passed in St. Lucia, as a minister of sport, you are number one. And next thing again, if the kind of money the Flambeau had get for each minister had get, and you reach in a term to have that, I think you could have bring St. Lucia for all St. Lucia to be happy. So thank you, brother. Hold your job tight. And I love you. Bye.
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you so much for your contribution, caller. I heard the passion in his voice, and it speaks to what you were just saying, Honorable Edward, that when you are able to work for people and impact their lives, then you would, of course, get the gratitude in return. Good night. Thank you for staying in touch.
Yeah, good evening to you. Good evening to your guests.
Good evening.
Honorable Minister, I have listened to your contribution. Congratulations.
Hello.
Honorable Minister.
Yes, sir.
I have heard your contribution.
Hello?
Congratulations.
I think I'm having some difficulty hearing you. I'm not too sure if it's on our end or if you could just
Yeah,
speak a
because
little louder.
I could hear you, but I could hardly hear the minister, which I want
okay.
to address.
Okay. Caller, just try to call us again. We will try to see if we can sort out our audio issues. But I think I can hear you. But our minister is having some difficulty hearing you, and I suspect all of our calls, if not most of them, would be directed to him. So you can try to call in now at 4527347. Good night, you're on the air. Hello, good night. We've lost that call. Good night, thank you for staying in touch.
Hi, good night, Julia. Good night, Honorable Minister.
Good night,
Good
caller.
night.
Good. I just have to echo the sentiments of the first caller. I think it's a nice thing when you have a young minister who can actually break the political barriers and put a playing field in every community, put lights in every community. I was driving down from work this evening and to see children in Mikud playing on the lights, to see coming into my community of Black Bay to see that we have a playing field that is maintained properly, with a nice fence. Hats off to you. I just want you to know that we have your back. Keep up the good work. The political barrier has been broken when it comes to taking care of the children, the youth of St. Lucia. Continue doing it. I mean, the games are coming up, and we all going to rally behind you to make sure we have a successful Commonwealth Games. So just keep up the good work, and when we see you again, I'll give you a tap on your back to make sure,
Make sure it's not a hand tap, caller?
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you for your contribution.
Julia, just to clarify one thing with respect to the lights at Miku.
Yes.
This project was already in the making when we assumed office.
Yes.
The only issue we had was the actual layout
I
of
need
the
to get
light,
online.
Okay.
where we believe that the poles were encroaching on the playing area. And that was delayed because I insisted that the poles had to be pushed back.
So we had to make some
Because
adjustments.
yes, we did not want the Mikud playing field to have been confined just to a football square. It is a playing field that is used by athletics, by cricket, and we were not comfortable that it should have been reduced to just a football square.
I think it has been put to good use. I see a
Yes,
number of activities
absolutely.
happening there. The St. Lucia Football Association had many of the matches in the fantasy football competition there as well. Good night. Thank you for staying in touch.
Yes. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Mbedi bonsoir pour Honorable Shawn. Et puis Miss Miss Lucie Emmanuel.
Bonsoir.
Brother Shawn, I think that's the best program I ever enjoyed.
Thank you, caller.
Because that program is very honest and straightforward.
Thank you so much, caller.
Honorable Shawn, if you were Abono representative, you know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
and the booths there, and it was in the valley, would you shift it?
Well, first of all, caller, you need to understand the circumstances that surrounded the decision to remove the booth from where they were. I do not know the circumstances as well as the persons who took the decision, and so I have to reserve comment on that.
But you have not answered my question, Honorable.
Would I have moved it? That's what you're asking.
Yes, in the valley, Larisus, the capital of Denry.
Well, if there were booths in the valley that I believe were impeding progress, that were not contributing meaningfully to the development of the place, I would have moved them if
it merited.
The situation, yes, merited such.
Okay, thank you very much. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. While we await our callers, again, you can call 452-7347. We have another call on the line. Good night, you're on the air. Hello, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Honorable.
Good night.
I've been listening to your show. You're all talking about sports. Look at Vieux-Fort constituency, Vieux-Fort.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister is a representative for Vieux-Fort.
Yeah.
Look at the way they fence up the Vieux-Fort playing field. If you go there right now and enter the playing field to see the state of the playing field.
Which
playing field is that, caller?
The Vieux-Fort opposite the Castles Vieux-Fort.
The Philip Masley grounds?
Yes.
Caller, when was the last time you visited that facility? I was there on Wednesday.
Okay. Okay. Another thing again.
I think this would give us a perfect opportunity to give an update on Marseille Grounds.
Look at the we have Commonwealth Sports game coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have the St. Jude Hospital in the stadium. Okay, if that will be taking place at the George Odlum Stadium, will there and they have so many sick people there. So the Commonwealth game will be held in the stadium.
No, caller, we will not be having the Commonwealth Games at the stadium at the same time that the St. Jude's Hospital will be operating from that same location. In order for the facility to become available for the Commonwealth Games, the operations of St. Jude's will have to be relocated to the original premises of St. Jude's Hospital. So
when they will be, because the Minister of Health said this month,
The Commonwealth Youth Games is 2017.
The Minister of Health said St. Jude will be reopened this month, and look, the month in already. If you as Minister of Sport, you was given the Prime Minister's pressure to relocate the people back to the St. Jude Hospital. I mean, the Minister of Health said, keep on saying this and that, and things never happen. And I've been at St. Jude, lying down, and sports going on there, music playing loud. I mean, a hospital, sports, games, noise, music, everything. I mean, after come on. If you are saying you're interested in sport, as you saying you're interested in sport, I mean, do something in the stadium. Relocate the people back in the hospital. Finish the hospital. You're talking about sport, and people sports in the hospital in the stadium. After all, come on, let us be real.
Right. Thank you for that caller. Minister Edward, an opportunity to speak to the Philip Marseille Grounds, but first to clarify the situation with St. Jude and George Odlum Stadium. Commonwealth Youth Games 2017. We've gone to the House of Assembly, and through the government of the Republic of Taiwan, we have received a loan of $20 million to complete St. Jude Hospital. And so with the finances available, we expect that the pace of work will be much quicker than it has been moving in the past 2 years. We have then about 2.5 years to prepare for the Commonwealth Youth Games. What do you think our own state of readiness would be, given the fact that we have St. Jude's now being in a position to move back to its location because of the finances? Well,
let me say that the more time you have between now and 2017, the better. I've said before, JD, not just on this show, but at sports awards and interviews with other media houses, that our preference is for the operations of the hospital to cease almost immediately. But we understand the situation that exists down there. It is not something that can be rushed. You're not talking about relocating a family. You're talking about a hospital. The Prime Minister would have said before that he was not particularly pleased with what obtained as it relates to the reconstruction of St. Jude's, and so adjustments had to be made. Had to be made to the facility down there. There's not much that we can do right now but to wait and to continue to dialogue with the health officials, with the Office of the Prime Minister, with the contractor, with a view to getting them to expedite the process. We want them out, and I agree with the caller, it's never ideal to have sporting activities at the stadium at the same time that you have the hospital operating from there. We tried it a couple of times with inter-schools.
Yes.
And that was after a series of meetings with the health officials. It worked, but it's not ideal. Unfortunately, the stadium further deteriorated, and so last year we had to move the inter-secondary school sports from the George Odlum Stadium to the Boseju Cricket Facility. That having been said, the caller also mentioned that the Philip Marseille Grounds is in a deplorable condition, or he alluded to that. Yes. I must tell you that I was there last week, Wednesday. This is a project that has been in the making for the better part of 2 years. And for the first time, I can come on national television and state that I am satisfied with what I am beginning to see at Philip Marseille. The grass has emerged. The playing field is at least 90% grassed. We have the best curator in the Caribbean at the moment in the person of Ken Crafton attending to it. I would have said at the commencement of the program that we've installed lights. We've gotten the connection certificate from the Ministry of Infrastructure, Electrical Department. So it's just a matter of the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports sitting down with Flow Select and deciding on a date to actually connect the lights. The stands at Philip Marsner Grounds need some work. We've identified a contract. As a matter of fact, a contract has been signed, but some of the material that is needed to reconstruct the northern stand in particular had to be ordered, and the material should be here in a few days from now. I also made the pronouncement at the commencement of the Dr. Anthony's football competition in Beaufort that we're hoping to have the knockout stage, and that is the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals of that competition at the Philip Marsner Ground. So I'm extremely confident that by mid-November, November month end, we should have Philip Marsner Grounds that would be the envy of the rest of St. Lucia. I know some persons have chided us for taking some time. I have no difficulty with prolonging projects once at the end of the day we are doing so to ensure that we have good standards and that the quality of facility we put out there is amongst the best that you have in the Eastern Caribbean.
We continue to take your calls. Minister, I want to ask you about the facilities around the island, but as it pertains to the sit-in and change facilities as well. But we'll go to the phone lines first. Good night. Thank you for staying in touch.
Good night, Minister.
Good evening.
I'll call it on the behalf of the Bosseju Cricket Ground.
Caller, could you repeat this, please?
I call it on behalf of St. Lucia and the Bosseju Cricket Ground.
Yeah.
We will always support you, and we always support St. Lucia. And we would like you to know we will be #1 in the Caribbean, and we will always be in our hearts. We keep this island in our hands and in our prayers. And we would like to send a message out there to the Cricket Association. We will do anything for us to be #1 in St. Lucia. Remember that. We'll always be #1 in St. Lucia. And it's coming from our heart in Bosseju.
Thank you so much
for
your contribution. Good night. Thank you for staying in touch.
Yes. Hello. I'm calling from Choiseul, and I want to speak on behalf of Choiseul people, and also the minister. I want him to tell me what is in the pipeline for Choiseulians in terms of sports, because there is a big disconnect between the sports and the people. Nothing much is happening, and I know Choiseul used to be a big thing in sports. You know,
yes,
we used to be big out there when it comes to sports. We used to do really well, and now if you could check the stats on our soccer now, it's really poor. You know, things are just not in place in Choiseul, and I want the minister to at least do something, because right now our district rep, I don't think he is even concerned about it. So could you please tell me what's up with Choiseul in terms of sports, and what is he going to do about it?
Thank you so much. Sports.
Yes, caller, I don't think it is fair to say that your district rep is not concerned. As a matter of fact, on Saturday, I attended 2 funerals in my constituency, and I was on my phone throughout the day with the parliamentary representative for Choiseul, the Honorable Lon Theophilus. And he really wanted to have that meeting with me, because there were a few things that we decided that we were going to do to help the sports people of Choiseul. After the funeral at about 5 o'clock, he drove all the way from Rodney Bay to my constituency just to meet with me, to continue the discussion and to collect some equipment that I had in my constituency office for some of the cricketers in Choiseul. I can tell you that sports is not dead in Choiseul. Choiseul has one of the best cricket leagues in the country at the moment. And when you look at the proliferation of players coming out of Choiseul onto the national team, you have to say hats off to the persons out there, people like MacArthur Philip, Fontenade, and Jason Simon, and the others who are putting in the effort. And we've always attempted to assist them through the National Lotteries Authority. So Choiseul is not entirely left out. What I would love to see is that come next year, Choiseul would find a way to infiltrate the Black Hat setup so that we can have Choiseul
they're up against a lot of competition.
I know they're up against a lot of competition,
yes.
but
Mabuya might have to give up their spot.
No, well, that is not for debate here tonight. But generally speaking, Caller, yes. I believe that things are happening in Choiseul. You have a very good feel in Lafargue. In a discussion with Prime Minister roughly a month ago, I was saying to him that if in this term of government we have to light up playing fields again, we have to give consideration to the Choiseul district. And the Prime Minister was saying to me that we have to give serious consideration to the Lafargue playing field. If at all, we will be installing lights again on playing fields during this term of government. So I don't think all is lost for Choiseul. I believe that given some of the plans I know the parliamentary rep has, the caller will be seeing a change with respect to the way things are done.
Good night, caller. Thank you for calling.
Good night, JJ. Good night, Shawn. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Shawn, I'm concerned about school sports. What is in place?
I'm not hearing the caller.
Caller, can you repeat that? Our minister is having some difficulty hearing you.
Okay, I'm concerned about school sports.
Yes.
And public participation. For example, when there's school sport that is organized by the schools and essentially sanctioned by the ministry, on finals, the day where finals or semi-finals, qualifying matches are being played, what is in place? Have you put anything in place to ensure that the school have some form of delegation coming from the school or supporters from its school, right, to attend those games, and in some cases, parents?
Shawn, right. Our minister is having some difficulty hearing you, so I would just have to relay to him what you indicated so we can get a response from him. The caller says he's concerned about the public participation in school sports and is asking whether there is any consideration given to communities and parents who want to come to qualifiers and to school
Absolutely.
events to support their children, because he's not very satisfied with the level of participation and support from the public.
Well, to respond to that, what I would say is that parents going out there to support their children is something that the parents themselves would have to handle. I don't know that the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports can make it mandatory for parents to be there when we have the various competitions at the school level. What we do is that we encourage parents to come out and to support their children. And this is not something that they have to do just in the realm of sport. But if you really want to build a society that is caring, a society that is thriving, it is very important for parents to show support for children, especially when the children embark in activities that are socially acceptable and things that will help them develop and grow into becoming productive citizens. With respect to the inter-secondary school games, what we've done by way of policy is to ensure that when we have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people at the Boseju facility, an area is demarcated for parents, because you do not want the wider public to be mingling with the school children during competition. So that is what we have done by way of encouraging parents to come out and support. But as I said, this is a decision that parents have to make. I noticed something. I was fortunate enough to be in London for the Olympics. And one thing that stayed with me was that every time an athlete from the UK had won a medal, there was always this entourage with them when the interviews were being done. And it wasn't coaches and the support staff, but grandparents, parents, family. And I believe that is one area where we're lacking. There isn't enough family support for our budding athletes. We just leave them to their own devices, leave them to the schools, leave them to the coaches. When they come home, we might ask them, how did it go? And for one-line sentence, we're happy with that. But I'm happy to report tonight that in swimming and football in particular, we're beginning to see, and cricket, parents are coming out to support their children. And I believe the more of that we get, the better athletes we're going to produce down the road, because you're showing the child that what he or she is doing is something worthwhile. And once children know that they have the support of the parents, it is very difficult for people out there to dissuade them and to get them to do things that are not what we want them to get involved in.
We'll take a final call. Good night. Thank you for staying in touch.
Good night, Shawn.
Good
It's
evening,
a
caller.
visit in Suffolk over the weekend. Can you share your experience with us, please?
Can you?
He says to share your experience in Sufra over the weekend with us, please.
Oh, well, I must admit that the atmosphere in Sofia was electric. The turnout was fantastic. And it just shows what community sport is all about and the merit that there is in efforts to decentralize some of the main sporting programs of our community. I mean, some of the presidents and leaders of national sports federations will tell you that I'm always at them, chiding them, because I believe that not enough is being done to decentralize the various sporting disciplines. If you take these disciplines that are traditionally confined to the Castries Basin, to the outer districts, so to speak, and the more rural parts of the country, you will find that the reception is going to be great. People are very passionate about sports, and I believe that Black Hat demonstrated yet again that it can be done. But again, if you market properly,
yes,
if you go out there and you feel the pulse of community, you will get all the support that you need with your various endeavors.
Minister, the argument has been we want to decentralize, we want to go into Choiseul, we want to go to Miku, but we have a difficulty with facilities. The field right now is in perfect condition because we have a playing field maintenance crew that is working on every single playing field. But toilet facilities and change facilities for the players, as well as the sitting capacity for the fans, seem to be one of the difficulties we are facing right now. Any plans to address, at least in some of the districts?
As we speak, GDA plans are pretty much advanced for the construction of community pavilions in some areas. I will not mention on this show tonight which areas which areas will be benefiting from such a program, but I can tell you that before the end of this calendar year, we would have started construction of community pavilions in at least 3 districts in St. Lucia with toilet facilities and sitting accommodation for people. It's not possible to do all at once, but incrementally we go in there. And let me say that this was a brainchild of the Prime Minister to the extent that he asked me to study a few models that existed in Trinidad and Barbados. I went out there, I saw what obtained. I sat down with with personnel from the Ministry of Physical Development, Architecture Division, and we were able to conceptualize something that we believe can work perfectly in St. Lucia. This is being funded by the National Watches Authority, and as I said, before the year is out, we would have started construction on at least 3 such facilities in districts across St. Lucia.
Good news, and I know many of our citizens watching tonight will be hoping that it is in their district or it is in their community, but of course we will be calling you to get updates so that we could know what exactly is happening where. Minister, I always knew an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours would not be enough to cover what is happening in youth development and sports and to also speak to your constituency. Unfortunately, very sadly, we've come to the end of our program. I want to thank you for being on with us tonight. I know that we'll have another opportunity to chat with you. I know it gets busy in your ministry, and so I will cut you some slack, but I'm hoping we could come back on to discuss and to speak to some of the strides that we're making in Dennery North. I heard the passion in the voice of some of the callers. I assume that some of them were from Dennery North and can see what is happening in that constituency. But youth development and sports too, there's a lot to be proud of, and I really want to thank you for being here and for sharing with the rest of St. Lucia what exactly is happening in your area.
Thank you very much, Julia. It's been an experience for me. I have enjoyed the show thoroughly. I just wish we had more time.
Yes.
That would have allowed me to delve into some of the more critical issues with respect to the Dennery North constituency.
Yes.
Imagine I never mentioned the water situation, but of course there'll be another opportunity
to be back soon
to come here.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks.
I want to thank you for tuning in to In Touch tonight. I want to wish you a blessed week. I want to thank especially the technicians and the management and staff of Choice TV. We'll be back here next week, Monday, with another edition of In Touch. Exciting and informative as usual. Do enjoy the rest of your week and remember to stay in touch.